Hey, girlfriend.
Hey, girlfriends. We're live.
We're live. We're doing it.
We're doing the thing. We're showing up as we are. I just got some Tylenol from my girlfriend here. I'm wearing my jacket, even though I've got my shirt on. We're just going for it.
We're going for it. It's realness. It's Monday morning for girlfriends of a certain age. And we felt like for our final season episode of season 3, we would just want to get even more real with y'all, you know? So we're going to dive right into it and talk with you guys about this. So first of all, just a quick cheers to wrapping up a season 3. Thank you all for listening. We love you.
We love you so much.
And we're going to turn our attention to each other a little bit and check in, because I think what we're calling in is just getting even more real.
Yeah.
And what that means now that we've done this for 3 seasons. So can I start you off with asking you, like, when I say let's get more real, what does that mean to you? Talking about your headache and wearing your cozy coat, like, what else are you feeling about being real on our platform?
Oh, I mean, it brings up a lot of feelings about vulnerability. Even this morning, I showed up all trying to be really self-contained, you know, and Jessica always serves me tea when, you know, we get together. And
Yeah, she's like telling me, like, I tried to use the bathroom before I came over, and I'm like, oh, that is some good girl training right there. Like, pee all the time. I mean,
it's true, but so part of it was that I was running a little bit late, and so I knew I was going to show up 10 minutes later than I planned. So it wasn't just not wanting to pee at your house, because I do that all the time.
Okay.
But
I thought you were going to say something about my 2 teenage boys that make my bathroom a little whoop, whoop, whoop.
No, I have that in my own house, please. I somehow prefer other people's funk to my own, so it's all good. It's not that. It was more about time of like getting to be efficient, like show up with my own water,
sure,
you know, and like, okay, I'm ready. Let's hit
record.
Let's
We're doing it, right?
Let's do the thing. It was more about that,
right?
But that does creep up. This wanting to ask permission more, like the episode with the fan. I think it was How to Feel Better in Midlife, where I was like, do you think it's okay if I have my fan going?
Yes. That was Field of Retirement vibes.
Oh, okay.
I believe that was the Field of Retirement vibes. It was the same one where you talked about masturbation.
Oh, yeah.
It was delicious and delightful. That was one of the ones I was going to say, y'all need to listen to that one. So how to keep that retirement vibe like going now before you retire was really surprisingly juicy. Yeah. But yeah, right. To your point, the fan, the realness. I love that.
Yeah, so I'm calling it in, and I feel some discomfort.
Yes,
with it, right? So I showed up also with a headache today, and I don't want to say I was toughing it out, because most of it went away after I had some coffee this morning. But then you offered me Tylenol, and I had this moment of like, yeah. Yes, please. You know, my body said, she's offering you Tylenol, but please take it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm also practicing that more in my life these days, really listening to my intuition, and really listening when I want something, when I don't want something, and then how do I navigate that in the moment? And I'm getting pretty damn good at it.
You know, I just learned a term for that. Have you heard the term interoception?
I have not.
So I'm taking voice lessons, a voice coach taking voice lessons. I haven't done this for years, and it's so delightful just checking in with my kind of voice at my age. And I'm learning so many discoveries. She told me that I still have a high range. Thank you, Meredith Colby. I love you. I love you. Like, she's giving my voice some nurturing that I didn't even realize I needed. And I had a story that I had lost my high range. Like, I went to her and was singing these really low songs. She was like, Jessica, could we try something a little higher? And I was like, well, that's the old me. And she was like, no, it's not. Here, let me warm you up. And I was off to the races and singing high again.
Oh, honey.
So that was huge. But she taught me a term for what we feel in our body. So she was saying specifically to being a vocalist or a voice coach that our interoception are all of our nerve endings inside of our body that are firing off around our body. So like when you pick up a cup, right, your muscle fibers fire off all of these little cues in order to do that. How closely you feel that movement, how closely you feel your headaches, how attuned you are to your body is called interoception.
Ooh.
So that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I just gave you a fancy term for it.
Yeah, you did.
But we really do need to feel it at this age, I think, right?
We really do. I also gotta get a little woo woo. I think it is the gift of this time. You know, I think a lot of us have heard these terms of like we're moving into an ascension process and moving out of what some people, you know, call like the 3D reality. Like this is a microphone and this is a desk and you are a person, but that we are also more than that. And so I've been thinking about this a lot. I'm having a lot of awakening moments, getting lots of downloads, like just straight up wisdom, just getting poured into me. And it feels like a remembering more than like I'm learning new stuff. And so what you're talking about feels very closely aligned with that. And I think the more grounded and in our bodies we can be through this process, through this time we're at with these wars raging, I mean, everything that's happening.
Everything.
All over, you know.
All over.
Personally, interpersonally, globally.
We know
and
everyone's going through something. We know this. Yeah. We know this.
We are all struggling and suffering in different ways right now and have different levels of awareness of that too. And so that's really intense. But what you're talking about is really beautiful. So say the word again.
Interoception. Interoception.
Oh my gosh. Even as we're talking about it, I'm really feeling in my body so much more.
I love that.
I'm trying to stay relaxed, but we're live. So I also feel like, oh no.
I know. When I want to look at our girlfriends too once in a while. So we're like, we love looking at each other while we do these lives, but it's also fun to like include you all in. So I feel compelled to do this and I don't know why, but this is just what I'm compelled to do.
That's what we're going to do. That's how it's going to show up. So yeah, I love that. And you said something too that I just feel like I need to just sort of pull the thread of, and that is you got like giddy and you were like almost like it was almost weird that a voice coach would have a voice coach. But of course a voice coach is going to have a voice coach because you need to keep beginner's mind,
right? And
you need to keep your instrument alive and healthy and well.
Yes.
And there are still more gifts for you to unpack in that. So the fact that she just helped you unpack and unlock and rediscover your high range.
Yeah. She's also a neurovocal trained person. So she talks about the brain. She talks about what is going on in our bodies as it relates to singing, which is fascinating. So it's a different way of looking at it. And yes, it is opening up so many gifts. And she's training me for my midlife birthday cabaret that will be happening next year. Kind of soft announcement about it. I will be doing a midlife cabaret birthday bash when I turn 50. And I knew I needed to have that support of a voice coach for myself for that. So that is like framing it all. But of course, like she's fabulous and I love her on so many levels. So it's just so exciting to have her.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah. Well, what I'm calling in about this authentic thing, and I'm going to be super honest right now, is exactly what I'm figuring out in my other areas of coaching as well, is how much energy do I put out to connect to people in a way that feels very grounded and authentic. And you know what I've been calling in lately too? That is preserving my energy.
Yes. Oh, can we cheers to that? Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. And I mean that on so many levels. Like, sure, there's the like, for me, how many clients, how much am I scheduling? But there's also an energetic level. I feel like I still have that old girl Jess, especially that old girl performer Jess, who feels like I need to be on 150%, right? And I'm just like, you know, and I'm like, I don't want that. And I don't even know if that's what my people need. And I've been noticing lately that I come inside my house, which is my little commute from my studio to my home, pretty drained. And there have been a couple of nights where I don't have much left for my own family.
Yes.
I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like how that makes me feel towards them. And I know every working mom struggles with this. Like, it's such a balance. And I also recognize I have a privilege because I know there's some people who are like, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. And I'm trying to find a way for it not to be that way. But I do think internally, it's not that I want to dim my light, Shay, but it's, I want to just not put on any artifice. Come as you are. And that's enough, right? I'm your coach, but your coach today maybe does have a headache, or my sciatica has been really acting up lately. I don't like it. I should be standing up sometimes in my communication and voice lessons with people, just because it's like it starts to talk to me and what you're saying. Hey guys, we're still focusing on your public speaking or your singing, but I'm going to stand up for this section of the session.
I think
Right?
we have to do that.
We have to.
Because it gives everyone permission. You're reminding me actually of a flute teacher I had when I was in high school, and I loved her. And one time she was like, I'm having really bad cramps today, so I will not be joining you standing up like I normally do. I'm going to sit here. I've got my heating pad. And like my little 17-year-old self was like, heating pad. So that's how it's done. That's how a big girl takes care of herself. I like that. I remember liking it. Like, girl, you sit over there with your coziness, and I will stand here in your cold studio and do my thing. But I remember that very distinctly, and it feels very connected to what you're talking about. It made me love her more. It made her more real and more accessible. And then when I had cramps, it was like, well, I feel kind of crampy today. Like, oh, well, what do you need? What can I get you? And I remember, like, oh, this is the place where I can come and be myself.
Because she gave you permission to be your real self.
Exactly.
It's so freaking true.
And I feel that through line now, and like you're feeling it, and I want to like unlock that and give you like full permission.
Absolutely.
To do that.
Absolutely. I know. And I think a lot of us struggle with that, right? It's like, how real can I be? How honest can I be? And obviously there are some places where we can't, but yeah, in those relationships where we really do want to show up as an authentic self, or even potentially as a role model. Some of my teen students in the middle of their lessons will say, I'm sorry, can I go get a glass of water? And every time I say, don't apologize. Of course, if you need water, if you need the bathroom, this is your time. I am here to support you, but this is your time. You listen to what your body needs. So it's interesting that I'm really trying to model that, like your badass flute teacher, but myself.
If this gets a little different, I know it's tricky. And another thing is like, that's the gift of this stage of life that you're at, to just a little bit say, fuck it.
A little bit say, fuck it. And this is like what you were saying, we have to. Like, I actually feel like there isn't a choice, because if I don't start making those self-preservation choices,
then you'll be out for 2 weeks.
I'll be out.
Laid up on the couch. And I know what your brain's going to do then. That's not going to be a happy place.
No.
So, I mean, we need to get ourselves there when we're trying to recover. But my point is that you will also be angry at yourself for not listening to the still small voice saying, ouch.
Ouch.
This
I need
hurts.
to move.
We need to move.
We need
Get
to do
up
something.
now. Move the screen, move the camera so
Right.
that you can still be in the frame.
Yep.
Because you can still do your thing in a different position.
And that is it. You can still do your thing in a different position. Let's all just repeat that. You can still do your thing in a different position.
Well, like we're doing right now.
We are
reminded like we're actually doing that right now.
Yes.
So one of the things that we're working on, as podcasters, I just love that we are that. I'm still like kind of settling into this idea of doing that, but I love it, man. That we wanted to move away from that talking head. And then we found some research too that showed us that that's actually a lot more effective. So we actually started doing this for practical reasons.
Yeah, we were having too many glitches. We were like, let's just show up together now that we finally can.
Right.
Now that you are back in the Bay.
I'm home. Can I still tell you, on the way
Please.
here, I was driving and looking at some of the leaves changing colors, and I was just so in my body, so present. And I said out loud to myself in the car, I love it here. It is so beautiful. I am rooting in. We're finding all of our people. My life feels so rich right now. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be home. And I was actually saying this yesterday. One of my youngest was started basketball. And I said to a lady who I had just met, maybe 20 minutes before, I said, I am just so happy. I think I'm just in this phase. I love the fall. I love this season.
Fall too.
But we've been here almost a year. It'll be a year in December.
Yes.
And so I realized that it takes all that time to adjust and to find new friends and to find the people. And for I'm holding my, I feel like I'm selling this cup of tea. That to be settled in, to be close to you, to be able to get together in person, and to be where our lives make so much sense for the four of us. I feel like we are all thriving right now. And so I just feel so blessed. And to be able to do this with you in person is just such a gift.
And without getting into too much detail, it was a transition.
Oh yeah.
It was a bumpy road. And it's such a good reminder. You reminded me of someone who I spoke with who I didn't even know terribly well, but who had gone and moved to a different place for very, particular reasons. It was the right move, but she realized how hard it was. Just uprooting, just the nature of uprooting and moving again, even if it is back to home, is a huge process. Yeah. And so that's such a great reminder that for all of us going through any kind of transition, and I feel like, we can all relate to that it takes time, but that here you are a year into it, feeling really rooted and feeling really positive.
Yeah, it's really great. Well, I mean, getting married, getting divorced, and moving all tie for the most stressful life events.
How about having a baby?
It's not in there.
Really?
Not as like the most stressful.
Moving, getting married, and divorce. That makes so much sense.
Right. They're all massive transitions and changes of lifestyle, and it's fascinating. And what it pulls on you, what it calls out in you. I mean, for me and for my family, it was the right thing for us to do, even though it was hard.
Yes.
Everybody knew this is the thing, this is the place, and we're going to stay, we're going to root in.
Yes.
And I'm so glad. And we're all learning so much about ourselves and each other. It's really interesting.
It is. Well, I'm so glad you guys are here. And it's a big adjustment. So that's fascinating. I didn't know it was up there as the biggest, hardest thing. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. People would talk about, moving is so hard. And I've moved a couple of times in my life, and I thought, there are inconveniences, but I didn't think of it as being hard. Also, most of those moves were without children.
Yes. This is a whole nother level when it's a whole family. That's a whole nother level.
From here to New Mexico, my kids were really little. They were very packable. They were just like, they didn't know where they lived. They were like, where's the park? Let's go.
Right.
Life's all good.
Exactly.
This was different with them being a little bit older. But it was interesting because we had their buy-in.
Great.
I wasn't dragging them out of there. They were like, oh no, we're going back home. So I'm really grateful for that. So
can I bring up something that you did in this season that I think was one of the most brave things I've seen you do?
Yes.
Your episode discussing race, which I also just want to say doesn't have to be like your only thing about this, but the fact that you went there and made yourself so vulnerable on our podcast for our audience, for me, for yourself. Was so brave. And I saw you have to dig down deep to do that.
How many times did we have to reschedule because I wasn't ready. Like something was wrong, something technical happened. I didn't sleep well and I couldn't think straight. Like there were lots of little things where I was like, I just can't. Yeah. And you were so patient with me. And I felt like every time I hit that roadblock, that obstacle, because I was preparing.
That's it.
But then backing away. And so when we actually recorded it, I was sweating buckets. I was super nervous. I also remembered, like we're live right now, but I remembered, well, there's editing. If I say anything that's too much or I don't want to deal with the after effects of, I can always take that out. But hot damn, was that powerful for me to be able to say it and do it. And I don't know if you remember, but part of why I wanted to do it was, and one potential title of that episode was why Flesché is no longer talking to white people about race, based on this beautiful essay and now book by Rennie Edo-Lodge. And because I'm fucking done talking to white people about race. And I've had a handful of situations where I got to use the podcast as I intended, which was, oh, you're curious about that? You know, I actually made a whole podcast episode about it. Would you like to hear it? I mean, I had a couple of people just kind of step in it with me, and I was able, and sometimes graceful and sometimes not graceful ways. There was one time where I was just like crying, I really can't talk with you about this right now. And this person kept pushing me about it.
Yep.
And I finally just said, you know what? I mean, after the tears stopped, I just said, you know what? I actually made a podcast for just this reason.
Yep.
I don't know if you are open to hearing it, but all the things are in there.
Yes.
And they said yes. And I remember even processing it with you. They said they wanted it, but do I really want to get involved in this? Do I really want to send it and deal with whatever's on the other side of that? And can I tell you, I never heard another fucking word about it from that person.
Amazing.
I don't know if they listened and it was like, ah, or they listened and they were like, oh, you know, or I don't know. Maybe I'll never know, but you know what? I was able to let it go.
Yep.
And it was so great to process it with you before I did it, but it was all packaged up and ready to go. And I'm working on my school's, it's called a school site council. And part of what we do is around equity. And I also joined a school's DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion committee.
Flesché,
oh, I'm
good.
not fucking around anymore. Actually just got the chills as confirmation. I am not fucking around anymore. I don't want to live in a place where I can't talk about what's important. We're setting up emotional and physical safety for our children around being included and diversity and equity, all these things. I really credit that episode with unlocking that in me. I found my voice. My voice wasn't shaking. I actually had 2 meetings for those 2 committees just last week at the school.
Wow.
One at first thing in the morning, one at 7 at night.
Wow.
I was kicking ass. And my husband, he called me out. He was like, you're doing it.
Oh my God.
You're really doing it. And I was like, A, thank you for noticing. And B, this feels like a whole new chapter for me.
Yes.
This feels like a whole new chapter in my life of surrounding myself with people who are anti-racist.
Yes.
And if they're not anti-racist, at least open to having an anti-racist in their lives, right? Who is not going to go quietly, you know, and I'm not going to make people feel comfortable anymore.
No.
At my expense.
Right.
That's where it comes down to. So thank you for helping me hold that space, because I couldn't have done it with anyone but you. I remember feeling that so intently. There was just no one else. Not to say I don't have amazing other white allies in my life, because I do. But publicly and in real time, and have it be recorded, and
I love that.
You made that a safe place for me.
Well, I knew how important that was for you. I knew how important that was for me. I do consider myself an ally, and I try to be open to what you're saying. I do identify as an anti-racist, and I just realize the legacy that we have inherited is so complicated and so messy. And we didn't make it, but we inherited it.
Yes.
And the wonderful author of the book Cast, I have to look her name up, but there was a beautiful interview on with her, and she talked specifically about how, if you think of the United States as an old house, and if you've ever lived in an old house, and I live in an old house, it takes some upkeep. And you have that list of things you have to do. And you're like, oh my word, we have to do this and this. And then you have to kind of budget what you need to do. And the whole analogy to race in our country and to the inequity, and how by addressing it, and by actually also even doing further than addressing it, by doing things like you getting involved in your school's whole system, by getting, voting in the right people who are also anti-racist, or at least open, is a way of acknowledging, this old house needs a redo. Yeah. This old house needs some upkeep. This old house needs a remodel. What we set up way back then isn't working for our current.
Exactly.
So to go off on that whole analogy back to you, Flesché, that is exactly what you did. You called out what the house needs, and now we get to listen to that call and think in our hearts what that means for us, right? And so I love that you are using your own episode to share with people, because you literally don't want to be put into effort to have that talk with people. But I love how it also went out. So I got a lot of feedback on that podcast episode from people who were really touched by your story, who felt seen, or who also really recognized their part in what it takes to be a good ally. And then the whole part around Bend was like an aha moment for quite a few people who either have friends or even relatives who live in Bend. So people sent that up to Bend.
Bend, Oregon.
Bend, Oregon.
Getting
Heard a
called
thing or
out.
two. Heard a thing or two about your episode.
I thought you told me that feedback, and you know that when I left Bend, I was so eager to leave. We all were. My whole family was like, "Get us out of here!"
Bend it like Beckham. Bam!
That place tried to mess me up. It did not succeed, and I really held to myself and my core and my beliefs. And so, luckily, our time there was very short. But I remember leaving that place so hurt and offended and unseen. And nobody wanted to talk about it. People would kind of hint at it a little bit. It was the going away party, because it was the end of the school year. My kid was in preschool. And everybody knew our story, because Bend, even though it's growing really fast, is kind of like a small town.
Still a small town.
It has a small town feel to it. So the gossip was fast. And so everyone knew who we were. They knew our story. They knew why we had California plates. Like, everything was known. And that last day, I'll never forget, this white woman comes up to me and she said, "Well, I heard you're leaving." And I said, "Yes." And she said to me, so interesting. She had been injured and I had offered to bring her food. And she said, "You're offering to bring me food?" Because my husband was injured there. The whole time we were there, he was very severely injured and couldn't leave the house for most of the time we were there. So most people didn't even meet him.
Right.
So I was the face of the family.
Right.
And she knew the story that I had just moved. I had 2 young children and I was new in town.
God damn.
Didn't lift a finger to offer any kind of help to me. And I heard she was injured. And I said, "Oh, I could bring you a meal, or do you need help with your girls? I could bring them to you." And she looked at me and she said, "You've been here this whole time and I knew your husband was injured. I never offered to help you at all.
Wow.
And here you are offering to help me?"
Wow.
And I just was like, that's right. Bitch, that's right.
Bitch, that's right.
I've been here alone with hardly any help, hardly any support.
Wow.
But she named it. And there was a freedom and this moment, and I could see her getting it in the moment. And I was not there to twist the knife, and I just said, "It's true, you didn't help me, but that's not going to change the fact that I want to be neighborly to you." And she just like, "Okay." And then so that happened a few weeks before this moment at this going away party, or the end of the year party. And she came to me and she said, "I heard that you've had racist things happen to you here in Bend." And I'm like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Well, that happened to me in Hawaii." She said, "I was so unwelcome. I've never been any place where I wasn't welcome." And then she starts crying. Really, some old trauma was coming up for her. And I was just like, whoa. And I think she thought that I was going to comfort her or something.
This is a white woman. Who felt uncomfortable in Hawaii.
Who felt unwelcome in Hawaii.
Who, she realizes the racist history, the whole colonization.
Well, she figured that shit out afterwards.
Okay.
She's just like, "Why am I not welcome here?"
Oh,
It was kind of like, "But I'm white. I'm good everywhere."
Right.
No.
Right.
But right, that's the assumption, right?
Yes.
And she was like, you could see her interacting with these feelings and this complicated thing in her part in it, and who she is and how she had been. And so I kind of saw a part of her process about it. And I was just like, "Okay, well, thank you for sharing."
Yeah.
And I think she wanted a moment and a hug. And I was just like, I had none of that to give. I was like, well, therapy is great. I mean, I didn't say that.
Right. Yeah.
This is why we have therapy, because I saw the door get opened. And my hope and prayer for her is that she walked through that door. Right. And, but I am curious. I would be very curious to know what people in Bend thought. I'm guessing my gut tells me that people in Bend would be like, kind of good.
Mm.
She wasn't happy here. Good, she left.
Yeah.
You know, it's not my job to make everybody feel welcome.
Right.
That is my sense, is that most people in Bend would hear that story, and then some would secretly be like, well, good. We don't want people like that here who look like that. We don't want the Browning of Bend. We don't want that. I don't want to talk about it, but so that is what so I would, if your friends who shared it have any follow up, I'd be really curious.
Oh yeah, no, I will definitely ask them what their relatives and friends said, if anything, back to them about Bend. And you're actually making me think of this thing that's happening closer to home. Have you heard about these crazy tech billionaire folks who are trying to create
that
new community? This little haven that's a little like outside of the general Bay Area corridor. It's like way east, right? It's out where the big turbines are and all that. And there's all this open land. And they think that because they can create apps, they can like lay down this whole community. But what I hear in that is that, San Francisco and the San Francisco Bay Area is so broken. There's so many issues here around unhoused people and crime and all these issues, very coded, by the way, in racism. I hear that all the time. Also, I just want to say one thing. Why are we in the San Francisco Bay Area looking at the most severe haves and have-nots? We need to call that out. Oh my gosh, why are there so many homeless people? What's going on? Like, what happened to San Francisco? Yeah, let's think about that. Let's think about that for a minute. What has happened with the accumulation of wealth and what has happened with all of the social services? And I just find it that there is a connection with many of these things, and that they want to go create this new little paradise. And I think that that's what Bend was for a lot of people who were flocking from the Bay Area, but coded in that was, it's safe, it's cozy, it's for us, it's less complicated, it's not real. And that's what I hear from this same movement of like, we can create this new place that will be so much better. And hey, I'm all for new design and, creating new inventive spaces, but let's take care of the old one that we kind of like bought up and then trashed on our exit route.
Exactly.
Okay, I just got fired up.
Good job to getting fired up and to having your own damn platform where you can get fired up.
And that is freaking fun. I want to bring that up because I was at the vet with my puppy Nalu, who I think made a brief appearance in one of our episodes. I was trying to juggle him and have a podcast. Yeah, that happened once and once only because he was like chewing through the wires. God love him. So he was at his 3rd month checkup. And the vet is this really interesting woman. And we started talking about the whole idea of like the state of veterinarian care right now, because there's a whole crisis apparently from her opinion about some of these emergency rooms for dogs and animals, that these ER places are shutting down because the pay is so low and because being a vet, you don't get paid as much as other doctors. And her overall arching theory is because it's a women-driven profession, that it's overwhelmingly women who are veterinarians. And when you get into that area, you start having sexism and the pay is decreased, it's devalued. And she was on a tear. Girl, I was there, I think 25 minutes with her just on a tear. And I kind of it was fascinating, but then I also was like, aren't we kind of here for my dog? But at the end of it all, I realized we need more platforms to talk about these things.
Yes.
Or else we will wind up cornering our patients at our vet visits because we don't feel like we have a voice.
Right. I don't know the numbers, so I don't want to light a fire where there isn't one, but my understanding is that the suicide rate for vets is also very high.
Well, it's such a hard job, of course.
Right. If someone brings their loved one in and they're deciding oftentimes around money of like, do we save them or put them down? Like, I'm sure. And then as a vet, you're very powerless. You have no place to make a decision in that. But I imagine it's they got into that profession to help.
Yes.
And so I'm sure it's a very complicated very complicated,
hugely complicated,
career to be in.
hugely complicated.
And that sounds very intense.
It was very intense.
How did you feel when you left that session?
I mean,
appointment?
I felt like I got a really interesting story. I mean, it was a little bit of a monologue. Like I could barely put a word in edgewise, and I felt a little trapped in the doctor's room with her, right? You're a little vulnerable, right? Like you're hearing her, and I'm like, are we waiting to see if this shot, is going to have a bad effect? Like she held me there for quite a while, So it was a little bit of a strange dynamic. I don't think I'll be going back to her.
Well, I mean, she sounds burnt out. I really hear burnout and like a severe case of it, because you're not going to go back. She just lost you.
She did.
As a client.
She did.
Right?
Yeah.
And if a friend asks, they're going to hear the story too. So,
yeah.
And that is the really bad part of burnout, is that it starts to affect and have this ripple out effect.
Yeah.
Hurting us in multiple ways. And so that's really heartbreaking for her.
Yes.
She's not a platform. And what she's saying is very valid.
It is very valid,
right?
But she needs to put that into purpose and into energy and move that somewhere, because I do think that, to your point, it will eat you up inside if you keep it right there as a burnout, right? Yeah. So, and I in retrospect think I should have spoken up sooner to say, oh, we got to go, and that little bit of nice girl training kept me there probably 10 minutes longer than I wanted. But also what she was sharing was really fascinating and compelling. And of course, my podcast brain was like, well, we should do an interesting podcast about this, like a women dominated profession.
And I didn't know.
I didn't
a lot of
think about that.
Points.
Yeah.
So that might actually be an interesting thing for us to do.
Actually, we should. I know a couple of vets, and it might be really interesting to get their opinion on them, on what it means to do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. A couple of women vets.
I think that's actually really interesting. I did not this one though. I think maybe not this person.
Oh my goodness, no.
It sounds like she needs to do more of her own inner work before, because she's just kind of spraying her stuff all over the place.
Yes.
And we can all do that in different ways, but it's so important to get some healing work done. And then have the conversation.
That's right.
Yeah.
And find a safe outlet, whether it's therapy, whether it's a friend group, whether it's your journal, to get those things out so that you are more attuned to yourself. She felt so, detached. Talk about not interoceptive, right? Like not really dialed in with her, that here I bring in this adorable little puppy and it's this beginning of life, and all I want to learn about is all the sweet things that my puppy can learn about and do. And here she is just ranting on her entire profession.
Right. That's not cool. It actually brings up for me, this really impactful episode we did on, having difficult conversations. And, so we're kind of like picking apart the stuff for her, right? But I'm so curious, what was it like for you to have that conversation? Because it's so a part of it's what you do professionally, right? Like, what was it like for you to share that on our pod and bring that up?
Oh, it was great. That was such an important conversation, because I also feel like I'm like a step ahead of, my clients when it comes to difficult conversations. And all of us at different levels have a comfort level with how we can speak up and how we can really take on the most uncomfortable conversations. So everything from really high achieving people to, teenage girls who are still discovering themselves and want to tell someone to stop hitting on them. We can all learn from these difficult conversations together. So how we can take the step to speak for ourselves, and then, giving everyone that sort of blueprint about, okay, once you say the thing, here's like a little system, to walk yourself through how to do that. And then to even kind of think about it afterwards and view those difficult conversations as a win-win, because even if it's uncomfortable, and normally it is,
right,
it is what allows us to grow. Like your pod about the race, once you did that difficult episode, look at what it inspired in you to do.
Oh my gosh.
To share it with those other people, to now be more proud as, all of these different places in your school where you're getting involved. So every time we take that step to assert ourselves and still be kind, because I'm a huge believer in doing it in a very humane way. With that steamroller bully stuff is not going to win. It's going to swing back and hit you eventually. We don't want that, right? We want to really build real relationships on a real foundation of trust and, humanity at the end of the day. So I loved that episode, and it was really fun to hear how many people also really appreciated that. How so many women still of our age are like, oh, I suffer with that. There was a woman from the South, and I've heard this now a couple of times from women from the South who said, oh, I mean, we were absolutely raised to be seen and not heard. We were so burdened with the good girl complex, with the people pleaser complex, that I have to work on that constantly to say what it is I really need, to ask for what I really want.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm so honored to be helping these high achieving women, and I'm equally happy to be helping anyone to correct their order, at their coffee place. It's funny, I was in my coffee place this morning and they were out of towels in the bathroom, and I had to clock myself because I was like, am I going to tell the barista that they're out of towels? I don't want to appear like a Karen or like an annoying, an annoying patron, but I'm also sitting here like wiping my hands down. And so I leaned in and just kindly said it. And they were like, oh, thanks so much. Hey, Joe, da da da. And sent off the manager to go take care of it. But just that little moment of like, I'm going to inconvenience someone, or how am I going to come off if I say this little thing? So also just to remind myself and you and everyone listening that those little baby steps, those little things we do every day that feel like they're just these little minute things that I even think sometimes we beat ourselves up about. Oh, why can't I just ask for that? Why can't I just say that? Why do I even feel uncomfortable? If I were really confident, I wouldn't feel uncomfortable. No, instead of berating yourself or getting down on yourself, treat that like a trainable moment. That is a confidence building moment. And each time you speak up and each time you say just a little tiny thing, it will give you that strength for those bigger conversations that you might know you need to have.
We're so trained not to go for it and not to clear what's in front of us, whether it's something inside or between other people. We're so trained not to do it. I know I've told you this, but I heard in a meditation, and it turned out to be so accurate that it's like a joy and a game for me now. So what I heard in the meditation was, every time I face a fear, I will be given a gift, sometimes 3. Every time I face my fear, I'll be given a gift, sometimes 3. And now I'm like, every single time I'm like, I don't want to do the thing. I'm saying the thing. Now I'm saying the thing. I said the thing. Okay, I said the thing. Are we good? Okay, the thing was said. Oh, you have feelings about it too. Okay, all right, got it. Oh, let's work this out. And next thing you know, some miracle over here has happened. It's just been insane. It's actually like a game for me now.
I love it.
And it has helped me to work through that difficulty. Not to say that it's not so difficult, because I still have, every situation is going to be unique and different.
That's right.
But when I face it and I stare down the fear and say the thing anyway, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
my gosh. And we don't get enough training around having difficult conversations. We don't know how to do these things. No. We don't know how to do these things at work. We don't know how to do these things with our family. I mean, the holidays are coming up, and I know a whole lot of people are sweating about having some of those conversations about, like, can you go to your holidays? Are you going to fly home? Are you not? Who are you going to spend the time with? All of these things present themselves in our life on so many levels. And I really think that has led, not to oversimplify stuff, but that's what leads to a lot of conflict.
Oh yeah.
Is just not knowing how to take the baby steps. So that's how I frame this. And that's my daily practice. Literally telling the barista that they're out of towels.
Right.
Will lead to episodes on race, episodes on difficult conversation, and totally owning that. That is what this is all about. So I just really am so pleased to hear that it's helping people. It's making them think about why it's difficult, not getting down on themselves about it. And then to your point, feeling stronger, knowing, okay, there's this little scary moment, but I'm going to work through it because I know that's what's on the other side is so worth it.
Yeah.
It's so, so worth it.
Absolutely. I love that.
I love that.
Well, I feel like we're kind of winding down a little bit, but one thing we didn't talk about yet is thanking Tamara Mendelson.
Yes, definitely.
Who is our sponsor for a second season in a row.
Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you so much for being here for us and supporting us, because you and I were able to grow a lot this season.
Yes, we were.
And it's helped us to think also and prepare for our next season, for season 4.
Which we already have a few incredible interviews lined up with some fascinating people. I can't wait.
Yeah,
for those guests.
Excited.
Yeah,
really excited for that, and for this new format to see. Well, what do you think? What do you think about sitting together and doing the thing?
We can hug. We can hug.
Do you find this more relatable? Are you enjoying it more? Please leave us a comment and tell us what you think. If you liked anything that we had to say, or you were even slightly entertained, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and tell people, tell a girlfriend or two.
100%. And the great revelation about what is coming in season 4 is literally this, the live version of us. Hopefully you also felt in our tone that we're kind of tuning into one another more, in the hopes that this relationship and this connection is what is also helping, inspire you, feeling part of this girlfriend. So we're literally playing around with how much we're like taking in each other and taking in you, our beloved audience, at the same time. So that is the new revelation. And then just to drop a couple of little teasers, because, I like to do that a little bit. I like to tease. I like to be a little bit of a flirt. We have a couple of amazing recorded episodes for season 4. We have one, just the title alone, What the Fuck Happened to My Body? Oh my word. She is brilliant. She is going to teach us about how to recover from childbirth, also how to feel good in our midlife, any age. She is incredible.
Yeah. And I want to say that thing about recovering from childbirth, no matter when you had your last kid.
Yes.
Right.
20 years ago.
Yeah. That was the thing that I was like, I leaned in on that one. That's actually what started this whole thing.
Yes.
Natalie Garay is that guest. And so that is going to be a hot episode.
Ooh, that's a hot episode. I had my sciatica starting off when I had Finn, and now it's back. And you kind of think, it's funny. I had it then and I had it now. And then she in our interview was like, oh no, those things just kind of like fester. And, if they don't get addressed, they'll just build, they'll come back up. They'll come back up.
Because no one taught us how to take care of ourselves properly.
Yeah.
No one taught us how to take care of ourselves properly, how to say no, how to have good boundaries, how to have difficult conversations. I'm seeing such a theme.
Such a theme.
So a lot of what you and I are wanting to heal in ourselves and in our relationship and relationships, all of those concentric circles, and to pass that on and share it with our girlfriends.
So you know what I'm not giving a shit about anymore? Our fun tagline. I'm not giving a shit anymore about like my limitations, like the fact that I might need to stand up, or the fact that I might need to, not have my light on at 150% when I'm with everyone and entertain them. I'm not giving a shit that I need to ask for what I need. And it, it isn't the youthful Jess. It's who I am now. And I'm not giving a shit about that. What are you not giving a shit about?
Oh my gosh, I didn't prepare one.
I know.
But let me think.
I just threw a curveball on you. I'm just digging
because,
from what we did.
Yeah, no, because there are so many things. I mean, what I'm thank you. And what I'm hearing in my own body is that whatever is happening inside of me, to not give a shit about what other people think about that. Not to say that communicating that is always easy, because it's not. Like, I just don't want to. Why? I don't want to. I think there's something about that. Yeah. Letting that be enough of a reason.
Yes.
Right? Because that's been happening more. The more I'm listening to myself of like, I don't want to do that. Ruh-roh. I already said I would, but I don't want to, and then how do I shift that or change it? But I have to be okay with it.
You mean like when you say you want to go out at night and then the night rolls around and
right,
then you go,
like,
oh shit, I just want to be in my pajamas. That's me every weekend.
There's something about that. But for me, it's more about social things.
I get it.
That my body is very noisy. Turns out it always has been. And I learned from a very young age. I can remember things in third grade where my body was like, don't go there, don't do that thing. And I was like, that's weird. I don't know why I feel like that. That's silly. Of course you're gonna go. You know, like I remember that so distinctly. And that is still in me. So I'm reworking that, and I'm healing it. I'm pushing it out and cleaning all those parts of myself that want to believe that because I said I would do something, or maybe the old me would think it was fun or delightful to go and do, but the current me is like, nah.
Well, I love that. It reminds me of like, sometimes I have these standing hiking dates and I have this one friend who is so delightfully honest. I love her for it. She'll just be like, I'm exhausted this week, or, oh, this thing came up. And you know what? That's realness. That's realness. And then, you know, other times she shows up. So it's not just every time she's flaking out, but she's being really honest. And I feel like it's such a graceful way to be a friend. And sometimes the best thing we can do in social situations to our friend is to be like, I'm not here today. I can't do this today. Right? That's realness. And I think we do get trained to push through that. So I really appreciate that.
And think about the other side of it. If I show up and my heart's not in it, I'm going to be the creep who showed up with my icky energy.
That's right. And the hike's going to be like, well, that felt kind of weird. Why did that feel so strange?
Right.
Yeah.
And it brings up a whole bunch of other shit that needs to be worked through when it could have been handled initially.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So all of those things about speaking up and about knowing our limits are so, so key. And I do think that is a beautiful way to live. So yay. I love that. Okay. Thanks for taking my curveball on the spot. We totally didn't plan that. We're just in the flow this time.
In the flow.
Well, okay. So planted the seeds, gave y'all a couple of revelations. Let us know what you think about us in person doing our thing. We love you. We'll be back with season 4 very soon. And we have a few little fun things in the meantime lined up for you over the holidays. Some little short, sweet goodies of some of our favorite things that we'll be sharing with you. We should do a few of my favorite things. That's what we should call it. These are a few of my favorite things. Yeah, or these are a few of my, over the holidays. Okay. I didn't really run that by her, so we probably shouldn't make decisions live like that. But anyways, just had an aha moment. Okay.
That's actually really cute. I'm in.
It is cute. Okay. Well, look for our favorite things coming up soon. All our love. Thank you for being with us. We love you, girlfriends.
Thank you for an awesome season 3. Thank you for being there with us. And thank you for doing this with me.
100%.
Oh my gosh. I love
it. I love you too. I love it. I love our pod. I love our vibe. All right. Well,